everybody, coming live from 215. It's your boy ROCKIN, REESE, bringing in another edition of Wcc Ring Rockers today. And I just want to say before we get started, I want to wish everybody out there in Oklahoma doing well. I hope you guys are all right out there. I know the tornadoes have been vicious the last couple days. Also, those of you down in Texas, hope you guys are safe as well, and basically everybody all around that region. So, hoping you guys are doing all right. Anyway, today we're gonna get off with is our Slamboree anniversary episode, which celebrates 20 years of the first ever Slamboree Legends reunion from WCW. We're going to talk about that in a brief moment, but first, it's the WCC Event Center. And we have a lot of stuff to get to, so I'm going to go to our first event, Friday, May 24th. National Championship Wrestling Association presents some old school wrestling for the National Guard Armory. 2813 South Harper Road in Corinth, Mississippi, 38834. Bell time for this event is 8 p.m. Tickets are $10, $12 at the door. If you present the ad that is on the NCWA wall, you can get it for $2 off. Also, please remember that, and also kids 5 and under get in for free. Proceeds for this event will go to the Wounded Warrior Project. There's 6 big matches on this card. And the first round match of the NCWA United States Championship Tournament, Dangerous Doug Gilbert will go one-on-one with the Lycan Assassin Wolfie Dean. In singles action, Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express will take on the Boogie Woogie Boy Gary Valiant. In a special challenge match, former NWA World Heavyweight Champion Wildfire Tommy Rich will take on Sir Mo of WWE's Men on a Mission. In singles action, Maniac Motley Cruz will go one-on-one with Tony Dabbs. In tag team action, the Latino Thugs, Jose Guerrero and El Toro Loco, will take on the team of the Knockout Kid and Buzz Harley. And in singles action, Tojo Yamamoto Jr. will take on PK Ripper. Yeah, remember, that is National Championship Wrestling Association, Friday, May 24th at the National Guard Armory, 2813 South Harper Road, Corinth, Mississippi, 38834. Also, this Friday, May 24th, Southern Championship Wrestling will be at the Moonshine Festival, which you guys can check out in Main Street, in New Streetsville, Ohio, 43766. Bell time for this event is 8 p.m. And remember that admission for this event is free. That's Southern Championship Wrestling, Friday, May 24th at the Moonshine Festival on Main Street, New Streetsville, Ohio, 43766. Also, Atlantic Grand Prix Wrestling is kicking off its tour. It'll start this Friday, May 24th, and here's some of the cities they'll be in. Friday, May 24th, they'll be in Borden, Prince Edward Island, Canada. Saturday, May 25th, they'll be in Bay St. Anne, New Brunswick, Canada. Sunday, May 26th, they'll be in Minto, New Brunswick. Monday, May 27th, Memorial Day, we're here in the States, they'll be in Cocagne, New Brunswick. Tuesday, May 28th, they'll be in Petit Rocher, New Brunswick. And next Wednesday, May 29th, they'll be in Duketown, New Brunswick. And if you want to check out Atlantic Grand Prix Wrestling, you can get more information about them on Facebook. Their tour will be continuing through the latter part of June, and I will have more updates on these events in the coming weeks. Next, all right, and Saturday, May 25th, Deep Southern Championship Wrestling comes to the SCW Arena, 1580 Highway 515, Blue Ridge, Georgia, 30513. Doors are open at 7 p.m. Bell time is 8 p.m. Tickets for adults are $8. Kids 12 and under can get in for $4. And don't forget, at this card, there will be a 4-way match for the AIWF Championship as Salem Center 6 will compete against Kyle Matthews, Justin Flash, and Justin Overstreet. To learn more about Deep Southern Championship Wrestling, you can go online at dscw.org. Remember, that's Deep Southern Championship Wrestling, Saturday, May 25th from the DSCW Arena, 1580 Highway 515, that's 515, Blue Ridge, Georgia, 30513. Saturday, May 25th, Prairie Wrestling Alliance presents Adrenalize from the Northgate Lions Seniors Rec Center, 7524 139 Avenue, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, T5C 3H7. Doors are open at 6:45. Bell time is 7:30. Tickets in advance are $17 for adults, $12 for kids and seniors. At the door, tickets will be $20 for adults and $15 for kids and seniors. For the PWA Canadian Tag Team title, Chris Steele and Duke Durang, the Team Hall of Fame, will take on Team Esteem's Chase Patrick and Kenny Stryker. For the PWA Esteem title, Brandon Von Danielson will defend against William Sate. In a grudge match, Michael Richard Blaze will go one-on-one with Azrael. And in Pick Your Poison matches, PWA champion Dylan Knight will go up against Gama Singh Jr. as chosen by Andy Anderson. And Andy Anderson will be competing in singles action against Dylan Knight's choice, Richie Rage. In singles action, the PWA original Marky will go one-on-one with Priest. And in singles action, Derek Cross will go one-on-one with Brody Malibu. To learn more about Prairie Wrestling Alliance, you can check them out at pwawrestling.ca, or you can check them out on Twitter at pwawrestlingca. That's Prairie Wrestling Alliance, Adrenalize. Saturday, May 25th from the Northgate Lions Senior Rec Center, 7524 139 Avenue, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, T5C 3H7. Then also, May 25th, Resistance Pro presents Lights Out from 115 Bourbon Street Sports Bar. That's 3359 West 115th Street, Marionette Park, Illinois, 60803. Doors are open at 6 p.m. Bell time is 7:30. Tickets for this event are, for general admission, $15 in advance, $20 at the door. For second and third row seats, $25 in advance, $30 at the door. And front row seats, $35 in advance, $40 at the door. Now, for those of you with the reserved seating in the front, second, and third rows, if you are there at 6 o'clock, you will be able to participate in a meet and greet with superstars such as former WWE and WCW superstar Psycho Sid Vicious, former ECW star Raven, former ECW star Perry Saturn, and the Resistance champion Amazing Kong, and Impact and TNA star Lonesome J. Bradley. And in action for the Resistance Heavyweight Championship. Folks, we're going to take a little break from the action right now. We've got a couple callers in. Callers, how you doing today?
Yeah, what's going on, Reese?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. How you doing, man?
I'm good.
Yeah, right now it's just in the middle of like a little. It's just in the middle of the event center right now, but we're just gonna wrap this up real quick. We are talking about Resistance Pro Wrestling for the Heavyweight Championship. The Ego, Robert Anthony, will defend against number one contender Josephus. For For the women's title, Amazing Kong will defend against Darcy Dixon in a tag team match. With the Ravens rules, Perry Saturn will team with the Raven to take on Inspiration Brady Pierce and Madman Pondo. In tag team action, Body Magic, Ashton Vitton and Eric St. Vaughn will take on the two-star heroes, Marvelous Matt Nix and the King of the Death match, Chris Castro. And in singles action, Lonesome Jay Bradley will take on the Muay Thai warrior, the Cobra. And in a 2 out of 3 fall women's match, Thunder Kitty will go one-on-one with Mickey Knuckles. To learn more about Resistance Pro Wrestling, check them out at resistancepro.com or hit them up on Twitter at resistance_pro. Remember, that's Resistance Pro Wrestling presents Lights Out, Saturday, May 25th from 115 Bourbon Street Sports Bar, 3359 West 115th Street in Marionette Park, Illinois, 60803. All right, now let's get into our topic of the night, which is Slamboree, which took place. This is the 20th anniversary of WCW's pay-per-view staple for the month of May. It premiered May 23rd of 1993 down at the Omni in Atlanta, Georgia. And what this event did was, for the first 3 years anyway, it brought past, present, and future stars all together. And I wanted to talk about the opening card that was down in Atlanta. This featured the first ever WCW Hall of Fame induction, which featured the 6-time NWA champion Lou Thesz, Mr. Wrestling 2, and former AWA champion and promoter Vern Gagne, and of course the Florida Tag Team champion Eddie Graham. And this also featured matches with the Superfly Jimmy Snuka and Don Muraco, Dory Funk Jr., NWA Heavyweight Champion, former AWA Champion Nick Bockwinkel, and the legendary Thunderbolt Patterson. And it also featured the reformation of the Four Horsemen, Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Ole Anderson, and their newest inductee, Paul Roma. All right, can you talk to me a little bit about what were some of your favorite legends like growing up that you didn't get a chance to see?
Some of my favorite legends growing up? Oh,
yeah.
Man. Ooh, it's quite a bit. I mean, you mean from WCW or just, period?
Or just in general?
Just in general. One of my favorites was always, of course, Macho Man.
Mm.
And then we have Gorgeous George. He was definitely one of my favorite legends.
Yeah, especially with spraying all that perfume around.
Right.
Mm.
I mean, then, we got on the women's side. Of course, we had the fabulous Moolah.
That's right, and actually, Moolah was one of the many legends who attended this event as well. And of course, I can't forget, right? I can't forget your home state man, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes.
Oh yeah, definitely Dusty Rhodes.
Hmm. And of course now was one of the things that stood out to me about this Slamboree was that of course I know a lot of people don't look fondly back at this moment, but Paul Roma as a horseman. Yeah, Brad?
Yeah.
All right, there you go. I was about to say, I thought you probably clicked it and say, well, yeah, Paul Roma is a horseman. I was just about to say, I think a lot of people still would have dropped after that one.
Yeah, that there was crazy. I couldn't even see that. What the hell?
Yeah, well, apparently it happened. I guess because they probably wanted somebody to be like the young gun of the group, and it was like, Roma hadn't been on the scene in a couple years, so I guess it was a fresh start for him.
I guess so.
And now, when you think of legends, because there would have been two people in particular I never thought I would have seen as tag team partners, but yet at the very first Slamboree, they actually were. That, of course, being Superfly Jimmy Snuka and Magnificent Morocco. Because if we all remember, like, back in their early 80s WWE days, remember, Snuka had that infamous leap from the top of the steel cage. And it was like, yeah, he and Morocco were definitely bitter rivals at that point in time. But yet, to see them team up 10 years later, it was definitely a sight to behold.
Right? I mean, that was definitely an odd couple.
Tim. Yeah, but I guess it just goes to show that, you know what, like through Strange Blood, you actually managed to earn respect through a mutual enemy, I guess.
Right.
Then of course, two of the all-time greats got to lace up the boots one more time. Of course, the legendary Dory Funk Jr., one of course, longtime NWA World Heavyweight Champion, taking on the former AWA World Heavyweight Champion, Nick Bockwinkel. And I had to admit, this one for me was like a little bit of nostalgia, because it was like the AWA and the NWA often cross-promoted with each other, so it was like, and to see two of the more noted champions in the title's history, it was definitely an interesting thing to remember. And it was like even more interesting because less than a year later, Bockwinkel would actually become commissioner of WCW.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and then of course, let's see if I could also throw another legend up in here. Of course, we also had the legendary Thunderbolt Patterson, who was like definitely one of the more charismatic men in the game against the teaming up with Brad Armstrong, although it was supposed to be Bullet Bob, but Bob couldn't make it to because of issues. But it was like Brad Armstrong and Thunderbolt Patterson again against, I believe it was the Russian Bear Ivan Koloff. And it was, believe it was Baron Von Raschke at this point was his partner. And I just got to say, anybody who knows the Koloffs, yo, what's good, E-Dog?
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, it was just getting into the Slamboree right now, and I was actually talking about one of the matches that happened right here. It was supposed to be Thunderbolt Patterson and Bullet Bob Armstrong in a Tag Team Legends match, but Bullet Bob couldn't make it, so Son and Brad stepped into place to take on the Russian Bear Ivan Koloff and Baron Von Raschke, and I gotta admit, this match is kind of bittersweet because I should say the late Brad Armstrong, and that's why it's bittersweet because I was growing up with Brad, and we've seen him like over the years, and to still think that he's passed away now is just, it's kind of surreal.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like Brad was like a long time, because the Armstrong family being longtime staples of the NWA and WCW is like, or even now with Jesse, aka Road Dogg, in WWE.
Yeah, and his brother's one of the referees in the WWE. Am I right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Scott Armstrong. Yeah. Who's like the oldest of the three surviving sons now. Yeah, and then like what was one of the more interesting matches, and actually I think this was a first timer. Barry Windham taking on the NWA title against a man who was like a longtime partner of his, Double A Arn Anderson, for the NWA Heavyweight Championship. And when I think of this match in particular, I always thought of, these two had been in the Horsemen for like numerous years, and it was like, if anything, they were the closest of the Horsemen, and now here they are battling for a title that their leader, Ric Flair, now had held for so often. I was gonna E-Dog. What were your thoughts on of Anderson and Windham for the NWA title?
I've always been like the biggest Arn Anderson fan, and I wanted, it was fine. I mean, they was, like you said, they were horsemen together. It was bound to happen. It was bound to happen anyway in the business, So it was. I mean, I was cool with that.
Yeah, because especially considering like both men had for so long had been chasing the title, and it was like, title ops were few and far in between for each guy, and then like I said, Windham finally got the big break at when he won it back in February that year at Super Brawl, and now Anderson was finally getting his chance now.
Yeah, it took Ric Flair to leave for all of this to happen, though.
So, but actually, there's what the even funny thing within this rivalry is because at this point in time, Ric Flair, although not in in-ring capacity, Flair had actually came back at this point in time now. Yeah, and it was like Barry Windham, for like some reason, was like really cold, and then we would later find out that it was maybe all those years of like Flair always holding on to the big belt, and then it's like Barry's opportunities being few and far when Flair wasn't the champion. That kind of drove the wedges between them.
Yeah, but Flair had to realize, other people need a chance too, to prove themselves. And Barry always been the contender. He if he didn't have the belt before, he even when he wasn't in the Horseman, he was always up at the top, giving Flair a run for his money. So that's one thing that I always, just like Les Luger, Les needed a chance, and he took opportunity and he got it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then of course I'd be very remiss if we didn't mention this name, because when it comes to legends in the NWA and WCW, of course we can never ignore the great Harley Race, 7-8-time world champion, of course managing now the WCW champion Vader, going up against the British Bulldog in the main event of this pay-per-view, which Bulldog will win by disqualification. And actually, this would set up a lengthy feud between the Masters of the Powerbomb, Vader, and the returning Sid Vicious against the Bulldog and Sting. As I say,
yeah. Yeah, at that time, also, I was a big Sid Vicious fan too. I mean, he never really got his chance to shine like he should have. And in WCW.
Yeah, I think yeah, and that is the fact because I think Sid was definitely like one of those guys that, you know, you just really couldn't break out from him because he had he was always the Horseman muscle, and then it was like he kind of always overshadowed people, like even like when he was by himself, and it was like, I also think it because he also had that temperament with him that of course the nuts psycho yet said that he always had that temperament with him. I actually think that was kind of a little bit of his problem because Sid could snap at a moment's notice, and actually it was actually funny because like shortly after he came back, yeah, he actually injured one of his opponents.
Oh, okay.
Well, and also at this point in time, we should mention in one of the bigger matches out here, we actually saw the conclusion of a white hot rivalry at this point in time. It was a cage match for the tag team titles. Of course, the Hollywood Blondes were defending the belts against Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Shane Douglas. Although they had to wrestle under a couple weeks prior to this, Steamboat and Douglas were using a gimmick called Dos Hombres, where they were posing as a couple of luchadors, and this would actually play in handy because Douglas would actually wind up getting fired before the pay-per-view, which is why they had to wrestle in the gimmick and why only Steamboat would wind up talking in this one. And it was like, and I gotta admit, this is kind of a shame because I actually like the Hollywood Blonde Steamboat Douglas rivalry, but at the same time, little did we know that just mere weeks later, it would actually be the Blondes that actually would bring the Nature Boy out of retirement, and they'd get into a white hot feud with the Horsemen.
Yeah.
It is. The thing about this was, I thought this was like the moment where like the Blondes, I thought this was the moment where like they crossed over, like where they stopped being that if he maybe had the potential, and then it was like, all right, these guys are solid now.
Yeah, because I don't think when you put them together, they weren't tag team wrestlers when they first got together. But they meshed really well, though. I mean, they come out doing their little camera thing and getting under people's skin, you know, and they worked for them. And they were just somebody you love to hate, and they had all the talent in the world in the ring anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what I always felt was like that in a weird way that they always like brought out wherever one was strong at, it would be the other, because whereas Steve obviously being the bigger of the two physically, he would obviously look the more imposing. But then it was in the same way you got to see like the little viciousness of Brian in it as well, because remember at that point in time Pillman was still in the midst of this is actually his first run in any capacity as a heel. So it's like, I think in a way Steve brought the viciousness out of Brian, whereas when you turn around, Steve actually wound up learning like how to talk, because obviously Pillman was the mouth of the team. And it's just like he took it to another level. So it's like, I think in that aspect, that's where I think the Blondes like really started to mesh was after that Slamboree match because if we all remember there Flair for the oldest segment, and I was like, man, this team really can have fire. And it was like, unfortunately, we all know what happened. Oh, E-Dog, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. All right. Yeah, let's just make sure it's still here. But it's but telling this like what did you guys think mostly about like as far as like the Hollywood Blondes, like what do you think was their standouts both individually and as a team?
Well, personally, Brad Pill was always one of my favorites. I mean, they didn't call him the loose cannon for shit. He's an amazing competitor. I mean, like I said, he had good mic skills, the charisma, he had the skills, he had it all. He was the full package.
Yeah, and then oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and we all know the same thing about who would later that we would know as Stone Cold Steve Austin. Was the same way.
Yeah, and then the counterpoint. Yeah, that's why I said that. I think that's where we're hanging out with each other for so long, where they actually learned how to balance, because Steve would pick up things from Brian would pick up things from Steve.
Yeah, that's right. And there was also, I think around that time, there wasn't a whole lot of tag teams that was like really contending. And I mean, once they got this stuff solid, I mean, they were really at the top of their game.
Yeah, that was true, and it was like, yeah, that was true, and they will really be like a short-lived team. But it was like, I also wanted to touch on to another Slamboree. The very next year, May 22nd, right here, my home city of Philadelphia. But this one had a very interesting twist because of course the one of the matches was supposed to be a rematch for the international title with Sting and Ravishing Rick Rude, but yeah, Rude would actually wind up regaining the title, but then he would suffer a back injury.
Yeah.
They were initially going to award the title back to Sting, but Sting didn't want to win the title that way, so it was supposed to be Ravishing Sting versus Vader, and the title will be vacant and go to the winner. Sting will obviously go on to win the matchup that way. But then there was also another interesting scenario, like Ric Flair, of course the WCW World Champion, was taking on Colonel Rob Parker's mystery opponent. Now, Parker would hint that Flair's mystery opponent will be somebody over 6'7", with 300 pounds and blonde hair. Now, of course, this got people talking and thinking, wait a minute, we know somebody that fits that description, but could it really have been him? It turned out it wasn't, because although the person that actually did turn out to be was just as good, that being Ric Flair's sworn enemy, and the man he won his 10th heavyweight title off of, Barry Windham. And of course, Flair would go on to win that. But then, yeah, that man who we all were assuming would show up just weeks later, that, of course, being the Hulkster, Hulk Hogan. And I was like, I think at this point, you really got to, I think it was like, with Flair and Sting both having both world titles and it setting up the unification, I was like, and then with the news of Hogan coming, I think like this was all like a telltale sign that we were going to see the old Nature Boy back.
Yeah, I think that should have, to me, they had a good thing going with the Horsemen, you know. I feel that they brought the Horsemen back, the original ones, but it was too much stuff behind that, you know, when it was time for Arn and Telly to come back. You know, Telly couldn't re-sign. I guess he had his problems or whatever that he didn't sign, I don't know. But I know Arn made his return, but it's not, honestly, it ain't the Horsemen without Telly. You know, you can have Arn or whatever, but you know how they try to make their different forms of Horsemen, but it would never be the same.
Yeah, that was true. Yeah, that was true, but it was like, they definitely, yeah, they were definitely a one-of-a-kind group, that was for certain. Then, of course, before we wrap up, I do want to mention a couple of other, like, Slamboree other events, to go through the rest of the history of Slamboree real quick. In 1995 Slamboree saw Hulkster and the Macho Man reform the Monster Maniacs, Mega Powers, call them what you will, to take on Ric Flair and Vader. But after this match, the unthinkable happened. Flair and Vader would attack Macho Man's father, Angelo Poffo, at the end of this, setting up a vendetta between Flair and Savage, which, if we all remember their WWE feud, yeah, it didn't take much for Savage to get hot at the Nature Boy. And especially after, because it was bad enough with all the stuff that they went through over Elizabeth, and now Flair attacking Macho Man's dad. Powder keg.
Yeah. I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Hey, let me get on E-Dog for this one, because he ain't got a chance to really get in here with that one. But E-Dog, let me ask you, Flair, with the whole thing between Macho and Flair, I was like, which feud do you think was better, their WWF feud or their WCW feud?
Oh wow. If I was to pick one, wow, I would say the WWF.
And this is probably like a hard choice, but I'm guessing you're thinking because that one involved Elizabeth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Although it was the interesting thing was like if you go back, like if I like fast forward to like when they had their Great American Bash match, Flair actually hinted at that, which was very unlike WCW that like mentioned past events. But although we would learn a couple months later when Nitro debuted, maybe that wasn't so unusual. But I'll digress on this one. Of course, 1996, Slamboree saw the re-emergence of Diamond Dallas Page winning the last Battle Bowl event. Yeah, trust me, folks, that one was kind of a snoozer. But I will give credit for one amazing performance, that of course being Dean Malenko, Brad Armstrong for the cruiserweight title. Of course, starting off a lengthy series of great cruiserweight matches. Guys, how do you think? How did you feel when you first saw the cruiserweight division?
Well, to me, I loved it, man, because I mean, you have more technical wrestlers than high flyers, and you saw a lot more, variety of moves, and the charisma they had. Well, Dean Malenko, he was just a straight Iceman, like they called him. But each match they had, it told a story like it's supposed to.
Mm-hmm. He did show off all of those 1,000 moves, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, the cruiserweight division has always been one of my favorite divisions. And when WWE brought out WCW and shit, I hate the way that they killed the cruiserweight division, because that was a premier division to me. I mean, because you had great cruiserweights like Chavo Guerrero. You had Eddie at the time. You had who else?
Ray.
Kidman, Ray.
Yeah, Ray. Yeah, Ray Mysterio. You had so many of them.
Yep, Ultimo Dragon. You're right. Yep. I believe Psychosis, Suvi.
Yeah, Psychosis. Matter of fact, all three, who would later be the Mexicos.
And they even brought in like the Japanese Juice and Liger. I mean, that cruiserweight division opened up doors for a lot of wrestlers that we would have never seen over here if it wasn't for that.
Exactly.
That's true.
I mean, we can't forget Billy Kidman.
I think we could, of course, the shooting star master himself. And then, of course... No, go ahead, Red.
Oh, no, I was about to say, you even had guys that were there now in TNA. They had the chance to keep, like, AJ Styles and Kazarian. And I'm like, you let these guys go? Are you serious?
Or even in WWE, Christopher Daniels was even there for a bit.
Exactly. And I'm like, you have premier guys like this that wants to build up your cruiserweight division, and you kill it.
Yeah, that was a bad move. And on this note, also, let's see, where can I go? Also, 1997, in his hometown, the Nature Boy would team up with the Hot Rod, and of course, and former Carolina Panther Kevin Green to go up against the Wolfpack themselves, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and Six Pac, and what was the height of the WCW NWO war.
Yeah.
To me, out of the NWO, I always liked the Wolfpack better than I did like the Black and White.
But this just started letting too many people into the NWO period. I mean, if you look, damn near the whole WCW has been in the NWO, whether it was the white or the red. And I mean,
right. At one time or other, somebody was a part of the NWO.
Yeah, people say with the original.
For Goldberg.
Like even Stevie Ray was a part of the NWO. I'm like, really? Stevie Ray.
Yeah, and I guess it was just because they didn't have anything else to do. And then like at this point, like Slamboree had really faltered by this point. But I was like, yeah, this is when you knew, like, your last Slamboree moment was David Arquette defending the WCW championship. We're all dragging against Jeff Jarrett, Diamond Dallas Page, and the Cage of Doom, and then Arquette would blast Page with the guitar and then help Jarrett become champion.
Yeah. All of that was about movie promotion right there.
Right. And
the thing about it, though, I mean, I hate to say it, but if Arquette if they would have trained Arquette a little bit, maybe he could have been a worker, you know. But at that time, you know, everything they were doing then was really for the movie that they were in.
Okay.
And they were trying to, you know, at that time they were also trying to compete with WWE, whatever they were doing at that time.
Damn. All right, guys. Well, I want to thank you. Yeah, I want to thank y'all very much because we're actually getting ready to hit our time limit in a little bit, so I'm going to speed this up. Just want to remind everybody that next week it is our all indie show. Please come on out in droves. We want to hear y'all. If y'all love independent wrestling, next Wednesday night show is for you. Do not forget to catch all the other shows like Sex Battles. Get ready to come up in just a few moments. We got the Recipe with Red and the rest of the gang tomorrow 30 minutes after Impact. The main event Friday with Heather, Rob, Elle, and everybody. 30 minutes after SmackDown. You know, Mondays we got the Uncensored show. 30 minutes after Raw with myself, Elle, and everybody. Tuesday nights we got Overload at 10:30 Eastern, 9:30 Central with Elle and Sean. Yeah, don't forget to check us out. We're on Twitter at WCC Live, Facebook. Check out the Wrestling Commentary Central page or WCC Live page as well. Well, for E-Dog, for Red, I'm ROCKIN REESE. Making sure that you keep the wrestling talk and rocking alive. WCC Ring Rockers, keep on slamming. I will see you next Wednesday. Good night, everybody.